get started for the morning. Just pull up our presentation. Okay. Okay, good morning. Welcome to Live from Western New York. It's obviously our first show of June, so enjoying the wonderful month of June. We're also welcoming some of our newest Hannah Realtors to our team. We have Dominic Areno in our Pittsford, Maine, and he is on the Bill Areno team. So welcome. And welcome also to Richard Wadsworth of our Buffalo Metro office. Again, we continue to watch the agents who joined our company in the last month. We are going to get right into our Spotlight office, and our Spotlight office is the Arcade office led by Brenda Bacon, and I am going to have her join us. So, okay, Brenda, so if you could first tell us a little bit about your office and what you've got going on there in Arcade.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much. I'm so happy that we were able to feature vacant land listings this morning. You know, I sometimes think that people think that we are primarily a residential real estate company. We've got a lot of other niche markets that we can tap into. Vacant land has been a passion of mine. I grew up in a rural area. I've owned land myself, and I just wanted to share some of my passion with you. My office is located what is called the Tri-County area. It is a unique feature just because we have 3 counties that actually come together in one intersection. So we have Southern Erie, Wyoming County, and Cattaraugus County. And not far down the road, we have Allegheny County, which it makes it a total of 4 counties that our office can handle. Living and working in these rural communities, I've learned several things that I'd like to share with you today and hope you gain a better understanding when showing, listing, or even perhaps buying a piece of land for your own use. Wyoming County, I'm going to start with because we are known for the beautiful rolling hills. We've got great quality crop land, and also something that we are known for are wind farms. I'm sure several of you have been through Wyoming County. It can really be quite a sight when you're driving through the windmill farms. I want to touch on those a little bit just so that if you have the opportunity to list a property that does have a windmill on it, there's just some tips that I wanted to give you to keep in mind on that. First of all, if a property happens to have a windmill on it, it's important to get a copy of the lease, obviously. The lease agreement is going to give you the remaining term, and it's also going to give you the amount that current landowner is getting for royalties. Not all windmills generate the same income. Typically in our areas, we do see that landowners receive a fixed amount. And that can run anywhere between $8,000 to $10,000 per year. That's a nice passive income for a landowner to be able to generate income. And some of our landowners can have more than one windmill on them. Some of the royalties are paid upfront in one lump sum, and some are paid over monthly. It just depends on the year that lease was formed on that property. The income on these is interesting because it is taxable. So the landowner will pay income tax on the windmill, and that is taxed as rental income or royalty income, but there is no self-employment tax that's passed on for that. It's also important if you have a piece of land, if it does not have a windmill on it, but is close proximity to one, there's something called a buffer zone. There could be easements that are involved on that property. So it's important to know what type of rights you would have on that property. The most common easements that we see on these buffer zones happens to be transmission easements and access easements. So those are for the windmill maintenance companies to access your lands if they have to access a windmill from another property. Landowners actually receive money for buffer zones, and that can be approximately $2,000 to $4,000 a year. Again, windmill income is attractive to landowners as it is passive income. Investors like it too. We have seen where investors will come in and they will actually look for leases that they can buy out. We have had some landowners who have sold out their royalties early. So that's another tip that you need to look into. If you happen to have a property that has a windmill, it doesn't always necessarily mean that that royalty will come with it. That will affect the pricing as far as value goes. Financing, if you have a property, we've sold a lot of houses that have windmills on them. When these were first formed in our counties, we did have some lenders that were reluctant to financing the properties. Now that it's become more common for the area, a lot of the lenders will finance homes with the windmills on them. They just have guidelines on the easements. They also have restrictions that people cannot sell the royalties without the permission of the lender. And one of the most common questions we get as realtors, do windmills decrease property value? This is a common question. Research that we've seen on our areas and also areas in other states, we really don't see a decrease in property values. We actually see demand for listings in these areas with wind farms. Taxes are less and some of the services are provided, such as trash removal. So in our counties, buyers will reap the benefits of no town taxes and free garbage pickup. Okay, do you want to go on to the next slide? Just looking for mine. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about agricultural districts. Agricultural districts were formed to have laws made to preserve, protect, and encourage the development and improvement of agricultural land. Lands to be used for the production of food, fiber, and other agricultural products. Some people assume that because you're in an agricultural district, that you automatically receive tax exemptions. That is not automatic. You do need to make sure when you're listing property that's in an agricultural district that you check the tax bills to make sure if the owner does qualify for an exemption. There is criteria involved with that. You need to have a minimum of 7 acres and you have to produce a minimum of $10,000 of income producing activities. And that would be from growing crops, livestock, and also the renting out of crops. So it's just a minimum of 7 acres. A lot of people think that you need to have large agricultural plots of land in order to get those tax incentives. So a lot of landowners don't even know that they can get that. And it's, you know, right now there's a need. A lot of farmers would like to rent crops from landowners. When listing the land, know if it's in a designated agricultural district. We do have those in our property condition disclosures. How can you find if you are in an official district? There's a lot of great sites online. If you Google agricultural districts in New York State, you'll find resources. I do like to use a link that's through Cornell Education. I have that link and it'll be distributed in the information after the session today. Also, another thing that people automatically assume is if your property is in an agricultural district, that you automatically can have chickens on your property. This has been a big topic lately. Chickens are trendy. People like to have their own chickens. But there are some townships, your local laws can actually be formed to override that agricultural district for chickens. So it's very important for you to check with your local townships to be sure that you can have chickens. We've had people who've purchased homes in areas thinking they could have them and found out that they couldn't. And I've got somebody now who is looking for a property. They have 3 goats and they live in an area where they thought they could have them, but there's a restriction. And that brings me to the number of animals you can have. So the 3 goat restriction, 2 would have been fine, but that 1 extra goat now is creating an issue. Most of your towns will have a number of acres per animal. Most require a minimum of 2 acres for the first animal and 1 acre for each additional. It's also important when you're looking at property, if you know that somebody is going to be having horses or goats or whatever type of animal, pigs, whatever they want. Sometimes if your property is on the, let's just say I'm using this as a real life experience because I had a property that had 2.8 acres. I had a girl who wanted 2 horses. So she was going to be short a little bit of land. What we actually found out was we were looking at the information from the tax records on the 2.8 acres. When we actually had the instrument survey map, we found that with the frontage and the survey, we actually had the 3 acres that would have been okay for her to have those animals. So when you're looking at tax maps versus instrument surveys, tax maps are going to measure your acreage from the edge of the road. Your surveys are going to measure from the center of the road. So you're paying taxes only on the edge of the road. You may be able to sneak a little extra land out. So always check the instrument survey versus the tax maps, because it could give somebody 1 extra animal on their parcel that they want. And then I also like to talk about, I know in our district disclosures, we have agricultural districts and right to farm. What is the difference? The right to farm laws were actually created to protect the farmers against any kind of nuisance lawsuits. You will see signs as you're going into townships that say this is a right to farm community. They do have a higher standard. Somebody cannot sue the farmer for nuisance. Some of the nuisance would include noise, dust, odors, visual clutter, and dangerous structures. I had a house listed. It had a silo close to the house. The appraiser took a photo of the house. It looked like if the silo were ever going to fall over, that it would land on the house. The appraiser wanted verification that if the silo were to fall over, that it would not damage the house. We had to get a letter from the Wyoming County compliance officer. We were told that the bank was told that they were not allowed to ask for that information because they are in a right to farm community and there is no limitation, even if it was a dangerous structure. We were able to get the mortgage through. The way the photo was taken, it was really an optical illusion that it looked like it was so close. And we were also told by the building inspector that in the event that silo were to fall, it wouldn't fall over, it would fall down. So there are some crazy things that can happen in our districts. And just to know how to overcome some of these challenges when you're selling them, we get some really crazy things that happen. So back to the right to farm, all 50 states have some form of right to farm law. And another interesting thing right now that I think a lot of people don't realize with our foreign investors, we have a lot of activity with foreign investors buying vacant land right now. In 1978, there was actually a foreign investor disclosure law. Anyone who sells or purchases vacant land to foreign investors, they actually have to file a form, and that is part of the USDA. And there's been a lot of activity since 2021 with foreign investors purchasing land in the US. There's roughly been 40 million acres are foreign-owned, investor-owned, of approximately 1.3 billion acres of private lands. There's been a lot of activity. I wonder if you could guess who the number one country is who owns property in US. Number one, Canada. I would imagine that that's probably because of where our borders lie. Number two would be Netherlands. 3 would be Italy. 4, United Kingdom, and Germany. Those are the top 5 foreign investor purchases in the US. How am I doing on time, Lisa?
You're doing good. You got about 5 minutes.
Okay, good. Utilities. These are challenges sometimes in our rural areas. Some communities do not have the infrastructure for public water and sewage services, as well as natural gas for heating. Propane and oil are common heating sources. When you're listing a house, it's important to understand the difference between propane versus oil. Some of your oil tanks will still find that we have oil tanks that are underground. Those are heating sources. Those were common for the area. We have found home inspectors and lenders, if they see that we have oil tanks, whether they're above or below the ground, they want to see an estimated life left on those. The average lifespan on an oil tank is around 15 years. And we've actually had some home inspectors or lenders have wanted replacement of those tanks, just so that we don't have any environmental issues with those tanks down the road. Sometimes people who have never heated with propane and oil, they think that it's really expensive. It is more if you were going to analyze the cost of natural gas over propane or oil. But those are priced per gallon. Most of your tanks are going to average around 500 to 1,000 gallon. That's going to heat a 1,500 to 2,000 square foot home. And you may fill your tank a couple times a year for heat. Always watch out in the contract, we have adjustments at closing. Sometimes we forget that we might have a full tank of propane at the last minute that the seller is going to be reimbursed for. The propane and oil companies are great about getting us final ratings for those, but it can be a last minute expense that some buyers are not prepared for at closing. And then also your septic and wells. Every county, I know we have a lot of counties that are represented here. So talk to your manager or look at your county regulations. But with us handling 4 counties, we have a lot of different regulations. I think the biggest thing that you want to be aware of, we do a lot of FHA and VA financing. It's important that you have 50 feet distance between your septic and well. You also want to make sure that on your water well systems, if you have chlorination or UV systems that are attached to your well for bacteria monitoring, FHA doesn't want you to have water testing done with those treatment options on there. So when you're looking at a house on a listing, and if you see that it has a UV light or a chlorination system, you just want to have a conversation about how that could be an issue if we had FHA or VA financing. There are ways around it. You could actually get your water tested and unhook those treatment options. And if you get a negative test for bacteria, it's fine. After closing, you can just hook those up if you wanted. The other thing, I guess I'm good with utilities here. Septic and well escrows. A lot of your counties still don't want to test a vacant home. If you have a home that's been vacant and it has a septic system, the county wants to see 30 days of continuous use. If you cannot get 30 days of continuous use, they will not give you a septic certification. You would have to apply for a waiver through the county. And again, these are in the counties that I'm familiar with. Check with your manager on your regulations. And then I'm just going to end up with pricing land. You could see the listings that we featured today. They were all over the board on price per acre. I saw one, it was 1 acre for 11,000. There was one that was 2,300 per acre. There was a 23 acres at 235,000. How do you price land? How do you put this all together? You know, you really have to put your thinking cap on when you're pricing land. It is one of the most common questions I get because people know I'm a rural realtor. How much is land per acre? It used to be an easier thing to do, but now we have oil and gas and mineral rights. We have windmill easements, solar easements. You really just have to start the research. I actually have a lot of research that I've done, and I'm always happy to share. Right now, I mean, you're looking at a minimum of 3,200 an acre on a piece of average grounds in the area, anywhere from like 30 to 50 acres. But it's important to know if you have timber value, what your road frontage is, and again, pricing vacant land. We do have lenders that will give you a mortgage on land. We have lenders in your community lending that will finance it and then convert it to a mortgage. Or we also have farm credit, which actually, if you have activities that will produce income, they're happy to finance it as well. So I think I'll wrap it up here, Lisa. Thank you. If anyone has any questions, I'm always happy to answer questions about land.
Thank you so much, Brenda. We really appreciate it. It's wonderful getting that guidance from you and knowing that everyone can reach out to your manager for more details. And just like you said, we will be sending out a summary of this and plenty of links to information that Brenda shared with us today. So thank you so much. We are going to now turn it over to Ken Winowski, who's going to talk a little bit about financing.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Brenda. Great information. Jim Watson and yourself. I don't think there's any two people that you two are the go-to people. So great information, and it is a beautiful area. Your office, been there many times. So just wonderful, wonderful area. So I want to talk about. I talked about this before, Wall Street to Main Street, and you know we listened to the Federal Reserve, who I believe has over-tightened, has overdone what they intended to do. And they keep worrying about this 2% inflation rate. And we have to be there because that's so important. And we had a strong employment report on Friday, and it made the bond market, sell off. So interest rates went up. I believe the consumer's deciding that the economy is strong. And we've always talked about that. We talked about the consumer's behavior is driving what's happening in the market. So Lisa, if you go to the next slide. Who heard news recently about these three behemoth companies? Wegmans is closing their store in Natick, Massachusetts because of lack of foot traffic. I get run over when I go to Wegmans. So if they're closing a store because of lack of foot traffic, the consumer's speaking. Walmart announced they're closing approximately 20 stores. I get run over when I go to Walmart. The consumer speaking. And most recently, Home Depot estimates didn't come in as expected. And they made a comment that most people have done their remodeling, their rehab, all of that COVID spending that people were just going, you were painting everything, you were doing everything. They say people have completed that, and it's on the downside. So what does that mean? We have people that were ready to list their house, and they're ready to go. Oil prices are down 24% in the last year. We talked about oil prices driving inflation. Has anybody, we always say, don't look at your 401k when the market's bad. I'm going to have a caveat. Go back and look at your 401ks. I believe you're going to be wealthier and huskier if you look at it. And the NASDAQ is up 26.5% this year to date, since January 1st. When the Fed started cutting rates, you all hear the term, if you ever watch CNBC, they call it the tech-heavy NASDAQ, and it's tech companies. At the beginning of the Fed raising of rates, they said tech companies hate high interest rates. So what is this telling us? That NASDAQ is up 26%. People are betting on where they think the market's going to be in the next 6 to 12 months. So if the NASDAQ hates high interest rates, we have high interest rates. So what are they anticipating? They're betting that we're not going to have high interest rates moving forward. The last slide. Consumers want to buy houses. Consumers want to help, want to sell houses. Let's help them do it. I hear too often the rate is 6.5. We also have rates of 5.5, where you can pay points. You can pay points to get to 5.75. Maybe we need to change our narrative to let's get you below 6%. We all talk about, well, we can refinance you. Well, we're in this long malaise of the rates are crappy. We still can find you a good rate. We could use lender credits. We could use different incentives to get you into a lower rate. So if I told you 5 years ago, I'm going to pick 2 retail stocks and I'm going to say, which one do you think you should buy? And I'm going to tell you, would you buy Macy's? And now go back 5 years ago. So go back to 2018. We're in the heyday where the economy is booming. Would you buy Macy's or would you buy Dollar General? I'm going to bet most of you would be oh my gosh, Macy's. They have the best sales. They have the best brands. In the last 5 years, Macy's stock is down 56%. In the last 5 years, Dollar General is up 86%. What are the consumers doing? The consumers have changed. And last, I'm going to leave you with this. And it goes back to the chickens, not owning chickens. I bought 36 eggs at BJ's Wholesale for $4.79. Oil prices are down. Egg prices are down. The Fed can look at all that. Well, the CPI was up 1, 2. We are seeing a reduction in price. So the consumer is telling us where the economy is going. We still have an abundant amount of pre-qualifications. If we had houses for all the people that we pre-qualified, we'd be setting we'd have record months. So let's help them, let's be creative. Let's help them get to low rates, and maybe they have to pay points to get in, but it is a great time to sell and to buy. That's my rant for the week, Lisa.
Thank you, Ken. That's really good information. You know, we think about refinancing later. People have no problem paying to refinance. Why not pay a little bit of that refinance money today and get the rate that you want?
That's a great point.
You know, so I think it's wonderful information as always. So thank you for that. The last thing we're going to talk about today, we're going to do a little bit of bragging about a couple of the people in our company. The Rochester Business Journal just recently announced their Power 30 in construction and real estate. And it is, we are very proud to say that both Lou Alimo and Kathy Bianchi were named to the Power 30. So congratulations to both of them. Congratulations to all of us for working for a company with such wonderful, prominent players in our company. Chuck's going to put a link to the article in our chat. It's already in there. Thank you, Chuck. And we encourage you to click through and read it. I really like the way the Rochester Business Journal did it. They have some nice interviews with all of the award winners. And I really like reading a little bit about what Kathy and Lou said about the challenges and what's going on in the market. So I encourage you all to take a look at that. I would also like to thank everyone who was on today and participating. We hope you have a great start to the week. We hope you go out there and prospect for some land now that you have even more knowledge, and get those land listings. It may be that the house they want hasn't been built yet. So sell them some land and build a house on it. So thank you all for participating today. Have a great rest of the day.